Okay, what made us fall in love with this house is not exactly the house, more the property. So the property is 2,430 quadrat meters, so cubic meters, square meters, I suppose. So I'm going to take you on a little walk down the property so that you can see it. So as I've mentioned, this pavilion is very charming, not very practical, and we think it would make more sense to have it as a little carport for ourselves there. I hope it's not too rocky here. So the woman who used to live here, or the man, he was a forester and she was an avid gardener. So there's actually tons and tons of hidden gems of plants, but it's so overgrown that we have to sort of dig them out and find them. So we've already started making a place to, like, when we find something that we want to keep, we cleared out this area so that we can kind of put it there and keep it. The first time we saw this house, it was in rose season, and all the rose bushes were blooming, and you can see here a couple that are still blooming, but it was so charming and it just smelled amazing, and we were just so amazed. But so here's a side garden that's overgrown, but it has a gorgeous view of the river. And this river is a cold river. It's known for being a cold river. It has special fish species in it because of that, and they're trying to reintroduce salmon actually to this river. And for us, it varies in depth on our property lines. Like, some of it goes up to my shoulders, very few places, but mostly it's about to my waist. And it's a sandy bottom with a few stones and, an occasional log. Here's another beautiful spot. But let me go back out into the yard so that you can get the overview here. So there's a couple of beautiful, huge weeping willow trees, which I'm in love with. And the yard is just long and skinny. I tell people it's sort of the shape of Florida. So the top, it's squattier. I'm standing about in the middle right now, actually. So the top is a bit of a square, and it's actually two properties, separate property lines. And the top is a bit of a rectangle where our house is, and then the bottom is this funny panhandle shape that the river, I'll take you to the end, but the river just goes along this whole thing. So if the house has, 4 property lines, which it doesn't because it's an irregular shape, 2.5 of them are a river, which is exciting. There's a little shed here that holds lumber at the moment and a pump. And we keep walking and walking. There are a bunch of blueberry bushes, which I'm excited about, although the birds seem to know about them really well. This is a special tree that the builder of this house and the guy who lived here till he died, he planted in 1973. Like I said, he was a forester, so he planted some special trees. And this is one tree that we've promised the previous owners that we'll keep. But there are tons of old oaks and maple trees and pine trees and birches and aspens and willows and trees that I can't even identify. Apparently, according to a poster inside, there's a ginkgo tree somewhere. So they collected trees. It's very much like a park here. I just like it a lot. It's really pretty. So when you're down here, we have 0 neighbors. So the river, which you can see right there. I will say that in Germany, this is a river. In the US, we would probably call this a creek because it's not very wide. But the river flows, and then it loops around. So on this side there are no neighbors. On this side there is a neighbor, but it's not building land, so it has to be for livestock, I guess, and he doesn't use it for livestock, so it's just empty. So down here we have no neighbors, which is really refreshing and really wonderful. So Christoph would like to talk to that neighbor maybe about renting it and having some sheep, which I didn't know he wanted sheep. And this is a beautiful little spot where I think morning coffee will be pretty awesome. And then across that, that's also farmer land. It gets mowed like twice a year for hay. And behind it is just forest and forest and forest. So we'll never have neighbors down here. Let's see. I don't think you'll be able to see in the water, but it's really clean. You know, it's the end of the summer. It's still pretty clear and very refreshing. So this is the view then looking back. And you can see the house at the top right there. But it's a ways up there, so. And then I'll take you on a little walk here called the Ootse Promenade. This river is called the Ootse. And there's a little walkway through here that is a bit dilapidated, but very charming because the whole time you're just like walking along the river. And we have our favorite swimming places already. Like the kids love to swim right here because it's really shallow and it's easy to get into it. There's evidence of a beaver, which from my naturalist point of view, I think is really cool. But let's see once I live here if I'm annoyed by that. Not really sure. We have a fire pit that is really nice. Keep taking you on the Ootse Promenade. Again, there's tons of treasures, arches. I told you before the lady liked schnick schnack and kitsch, and there's plenty of it around. So I love that. Anyway, and then I would be walking right back up through the grass like you saw before. So that's basically the tour of our outside, and I showed the side garden up there, the side yard in the outdoor tour, like the outside of the house tour. So if you're curious about that, you can look at that here. And just because I know my mom's gonna wonder, like, what about neighbors? So if you can see through these weeds, there are neighbors. So like, see where this like tree back there is like coming into the river? It's about our property line, and behind that there are two houses also with riverfront, but we don't see them, they don't see us, other than right here. And the one house built a garage as their riverfront, so obviously they don't sit at it. The other house does seem to sit on the river because we can hear them in the evenings, but you know, it kind of adds to the holiday and party atmosphere, I think, a little bit. But this whole bend right here is ours for swimming, and it's really awesome. Oh, and there's something I forgot to show you, which is pretty gorgeous. So I took you on the Ootse Promenade. There's one more little path that has a name. It's called the Verliebungsweg, which means you'll fall in love if you take this way. So be careful. You never know. First, we have an access point here to the river. This is the calmest spot where the current is not very strong because it's a big bend. It's a bit of an eddy here. There we are. And it feels a little lake-like, and also it comes up to my shoulders about right there. So you can walk in and dip down and get nice and cool. And it looks mucky from here, but it's really not. Super sandy bottom. Really clean, really clear. Yes, there are fish in there. Yes, I have seen crayfish. It's a little freaky, but it's also nice. This is the Verliebungsweg, so this would be the way to fall in love. And I will admit that this is what made me fall in love with this property. So here is my favorite sitting spot at the moment, because you sit here and this is your view.